Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to today's video. So I tried to do a live yesterday with these lessons of life that I wanted to share on my birthday, things that I've learned in my life. When I was trying to do the live, my Instagram would keep crashing, and I tried it 4 times, and every single time it would crash in between I was talking about the lessons. And so I thought, let me just re-record everything so it's in one place, one video, and not piecemealed, and you have everything in one place. And so that's what this video is about. So today we're going to be talking about 15 lessons of life that I've learned throughout my 20s and 30s. And if you are new here, because I know I have a lot of new followers, I am Irvi. I'm a mindfulness coach and spiritual healer and teacher for mamas. That's any woman that's going on their motherhood journey through fertility, TTC, trying to conceive, pregnancy, postpartum, and being a new mom. And so I help them with keeping their emotions in check, staying grounded, having a more positive approach to their motherhood journey through learning mindfulness and through learning other spiritual modalities and other spiritual techniques that can help them through their journey. And so a big reason why I started doing what I'm doing is because I went through a lot throughout my process of just being me. So I had anxiety for a long time, and mindfulness really helped me get out of anxiety. But then I had a very long fertility journey, and now as I'm just finishing my pregnancy and going into postpartum, I'm feeling a lot of different things. And so mindfulness has been that one pillar in my life that has really helped me keep my emotions, my thoughts, my energy, all of that in balance. And balance is really important as you are trying to nurture yourself, nurture a new baby, because everything that you're doing for yourself is going to your baby and also to the rest of your family. So that's who I am. And I have a lot of different services. So I have coaching services, I have healing services, I have other mindfulness packages that you can all check out in my bio. And so let's jump into these lessons. So I have 15 lessons. I've divided them out between my 20s and my 30s. So the first 7 are for my 20s, and then the next about 8 are for my 30s. So let's dive into my 20s. My 20s, just to give you an overview, was very different than where I am now. Like I said, I dealt with anxiety for a really long time. A lot of my anxiety came from the type of life I was living in my 20s. And I wasn't very much into mindfulness at that time. I wouldn't say I wasn't into spirituality, because spirituality and philosophy was like really interesting to me. I just didn't practice it the way I practice it now. And my life was very much living for others, or living for others. I was a people pleaser, but also like living based off what others thought I should be doing, I think is the best way I can say it. And so these lessons are all around that. So the first one is, nothing is permanent, be flexible. And I'm going to pair this with 2 other ones because it kind of goes together. Throw away your timeline and planner. And friends or people come and go in life. This isn't a reflection of you. So in my 20s, I really thought, I had a planner and I had a timeline. So I really thought that everything would go according to this planner and my timing. And I wasn't flexible at all. I wasn't very much like, let's go with the flow type of mentality. I felt like everything was very permanent. Like if I wanted to happen a certain way, it had to happen that way. I was very much in control mode all the time. And when things didn't happen, I would get really hurt. Or I would keep asking, like, why is this happening to me? Why does this keep happening? Why can't I be successful? Why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? And I learned through many different lessons, whether it's my personal life at that time, career, relationships, that it doesn't matter what my timeline is. It doesn't matter what I think is important in terms of like my plan. It doesn't matter like the strictness that I had. It doesn't like that doesn't it doesn't matter. It what matters is the fact that things are going to happen in your life the way that they need to unfold, and there is a greater good for you in all of that. And so especially, you know, with friends, like, so I had a lot of people come in and out of my life. It was the time I was graduating from college and I was entering, you know, the workforce. And so I really didn't understand what this all meant. Like, I had friends for a really long time and I didn't understand what it meant when I wasn't friends with them anymore. They didn't talk to me, or I got ghosted, or any of those things. And so I started to blame myself, like there must be something wrong with me. And I started to build up these walls, and I became very stoic and very jaded for majority of my 20s. I want to say up until like 25. I just was a very different person. And because of all of that, a lot of other things were manifesting in my life that now I look back at it and I'm like, wow, they were great lessons, because they were showing me how to be flexible and how to go with the flow and really trust. But at that time, it was very painful for me to go through all of it. And like, because I didn't want to go through the pain, I blocked myself out from it by creating these walls. So the next few lessons I have here is there's more to life than just making money. There's a difference between love and lust, attraction and true love. And so I'm going to talk about let me actually add the next one. Getting fired from a job is not the end of the world. Changing careers 5 times is also not a big deal. So I changed my career more than 5 times, I think, in my 20s. I started off graduating from college thinking I'll be a high school history teacher. I didn't do that. I was substituting for a little bit as a teacher. I was doing supplemental ed. I was working in the Board of Ed, admin. I ended up going back to get my master's, and I wanted to get into the marketing world, kind of in advertising, and instead I ended up really liking market research and analytics. I got into data analytics. I moved into software, and I moved into this world of agile and agile coaching and training. I went into consulting, and so there was a lot of different career paths that opened up for me because of my skill set. I mean, it was a good thing, but also the fact that I wasn't on like the career path that I had planned in my planner and in my timeline. I felt like this was like really bad. And so I remember the very first job I got fired from, which wasn't a reflection of my performance or anything like that. It was really politics. I remember I felt like it was like the end of the world, and that I was a failure, and my life was over. And I remember thinking like there was just so much pain in my life, like I just didn't want to move forward anymore. Everything felt like a dark cloud. Like everything really felt heavy and dark during that time of my 20s, like my career, my personal life, my home life, like everything. I was living with my parents at that time. And so that was difficult. A lot of my friends moved out of state to move on. A lot of them were getting married and moving on to like, you know, their married life and things like that. And so I just felt like very lost and very, very much like a loser, I guess is the best way I can describe it. I know now that I wasn't, but at that time, that's how I felt. And so there's more to life than just making a lot of money. That one, I will say, I really bought into that corporate dream where, especially that like New York corporate dream, I want to say, like where you like go and you're working a corporate job and you're making a lot of money and like you're working like really long hours. There was some sort of appeal of that to me at that time because everybody that I knew was doing that. And you're grinding and you're burning out, but then you're going to these really great parties, and like that's what I felt like was fulfilling in life at that time because I saw other people doing it. And and I realized that that wasn't for me. Though I was pushing myself into that lifestyle, I knew that lifestyle wasn't for me. And so it took realization and a lot of deep working of like what exactly is going on in my life in my 20s. Like there was a point in my 20s, I want to say it was like around 25, 26, right when I met my husband. At that time we were dating, but around that time, I remember, 1 second. All right. So around that time, I remember, I was going through, a very deep self-introspection. And it was like right before I met him that I started to really question a lot of things. Like I really put in a lot of work within myself of like self-love, self-understanding, introspection. Just really wanted to relearn about what am I doing in life, where am I, and why do I feel lost? Because I shouldn't feel lost. And that's really when I got into spirituality. I feel like my first spiritual awakening happened at that time. Okay, the last one for my 20s is your parents don't always know what's best for you, but they do love you. And so I lived with my parents mostly for my 20s. Partly because all of the jobs I had didn't pay enough for me to live on my own. And so I just kind of lived with them at home. And you know, when you live with your parents, especially if you're Indian or Asian or from an ethnic background where family is really everything, they really try to influence your life. And like a lot of things that they would say to me would trigger me, and it still does. And I would try to do what they would ask me to do or try to practice what they wanted me to do. But I knew that deep down inside, maybe there was a different way that I could do it, because a lot of the things they were trying to tell me was coming from a place of their fear, or their insecurities, and they were trying to protect me. And so, irrespective of all of that, I knew that they loved me. I know that still to this day, they still love me. They just do things differently, and they just have different thoughts. And like my point in all of this is saying that you can still have a relationship with your parents. You can still love them and they can still love you, but you don't have to always listen to everything they're saying. You don't always have to, feel like guilty from inside that you haven't listened to their advice or you haven't done things their way. There might be something that you want to do, that you know is best for you, that they haven't thought about because they've never experienced that in their life. So if you are feeling like, if I defy my parents, I feel like, they're going to feel like I don't love them. There's a big difference between those two things. There's a difference between doing what's best for you and creating the boundaries for yourself and still respecting and loving other people. And then the last one is there's a difference between love and lust, attraction and true love. And so this is all about relationships. So in my 20s, relationships was really hard. I was seeing like my friends were getting, let me step back. I was in a relationship for most of my 20s. I got engaged, engagement broke, and my planner, my timeline, I had it written down that I wanted to get married by the time I was 24, 25. I wanted to have kids by the time, before I was 32, I wanted to finish having kids. That was my plan. And so when I realized that, the relationship wasn't working, I was really not in a good place in that relationship at all. It was very toxic. I had a very hard time afterwards with like understanding what happened, right? And so that's when I really started to dive into self-love and just love in general. Like, what is love? What is unconditional love? How can I do that? How can I have love for myself? Like, all of these things, and then there's a place in self-love where you start to trust yourself more, where you start to build more trust within yourself, where you start to understand who you really are and what it is, like your authentic self really wants and needs, and you stand up for that and you ask for that. And so I never did this before that. And so that, though it was painful for me to go through that breakup, it taught me a lot of things. But the one thing that it really taught me is that there's a difference between love and lust. When we talk about love in today's society, we confuse that with attraction or lust, or the word love or I love you is used so often that I don't think that people really understand what love really is. Like, there's no conditions when it comes to love, true love. And when you truly love somebody, you're not tying any conditions or any expectations to that. What you're trying to do is really just love them for who they are. And you have this mutual respect and trust between each other, and you want them to be happy at the end of the day. Like, it's not about your happiness or what you want, it's about them being happy. Like, if they're happy, you're happy, and that's love. And so I learned this in my 20s. Okay, let's go into 30s. The first one I have here: the right people align into your life as you need them. So in my 30s, people started to come and go, friends, people that I knew for a really long time. And I had already learned in my 20s that, like, nothing's permanent. Things are flexible. People will come and go. Friends are not always going to be there. Like, things happen. And in my 30s, I started to understand that as you go through life, it's a journey, right? Like, life is a journey. And if you can imagine it as like your life is like a train, and people are coming on and off the train depending on what stations you're stopping at, it makes it a lot more easier to like come to terms with. Like, as you are changing your energy, as you're changing your vibration, there are going to be people that are dropping off from your life that just don't attract to the vibration that you have, and there are going to be new people that come in. And this is really beautiful. Like, this is a really beautiful part of life. I feel that the right people will always align, and that's really dependent on your vibration and your energy. And as you're changing and you're up leveling and you are growing, so will the people around you. And it's not about feeling hurt about like the people that aren't there, but more so about being happy about the people that are there for you right now. The next one: surrender and keep surrendering. This one I have felt this whole year. Like, I feel like surrender has been the theme of 2023. Every time I feel like something is hard, or I'm struggling with something, or something is challenging, or I can't do something, I just surrender. And like this, the next second, whatever it was I was looking for just happens. And so I have a lot of faith and belief in surrender, because I've learned this lesson over and over again this year, and I've seen the power of it. what you think is the most painful cycle of your life is actually the most rewarding. And this goes with surrender. Like, sometimes you're going through something and it doesn't have to be painful, but let's just say challenging, right? Like, sometimes you're going through a cycle that feels very, very challenging and don't understand why it's happening to you. But you just have to believe in yourself, have faith in the universe, and understand that what's coming from it is going to be something really great. Like, as we are up leveling, we're also shedding parts of us. And there's like cycles that are breaking off from our life. And these, in order for these cycles to like break off, we need to like not resist it and just let it happen. And sometimes with that means that like ends a chapter in your life. So maybe that's a relationship, a place that you're living, a job, whatever it may be. But it's not a reflection of you personally. Like, it's more so of like when one door closes and another door opens. And if we just allow it and we just surrender to it and we just let things unfold, we will we'll be able to deal with it a lot better. Fear only controls you if you let it. Surrender to love. So I've learned the polarities, right? So fear on one side, love on the other side. And I've learned that surrendering to love every time I feel really scared. By the way, this is the necklace I got earlier this year. It says fearless. So fearless was my word for 2023 because I knew that I was doing a lot of things this year that were very scary to me. You know, IVF, maybe possibly getting pregnant, bringing a baby into this world, birthing, all of these things were just, it's not that I didn't want them, but they just were things that felt very scary, I guess the best way I can say it to me. And so I've been pushed to my limits with fear this year. And every time I've been pushed to that limit of where it's like, fear's like, okay, we're not going to do this, I surrender to love, and the answer that I'm looking for comes of like what it is that I'm supposed to be doing next, going forward, whatever it is. And this is kind of like not only with my fertility journey, but also has to do with like business. Like, I feel like I really started to dive into areas of my business or do things within my business that I would have never done before. And, you know, I found partnerships, I found great people to interview, like just connected with a lot of people. Like, I've always been a very shy person, and so I don't really go forth, and I won't like message you and be like, hey, like, I really like you, like, we should record a podcast together. It doesn't feel comfortable to me, but this year I've done it. And I've also asked questions, and I've also reached out to people in this way, like when I have questions, or when I have like, hey, I wonder if you'd be interested in this, or hey, I wonder. And that wasn't something that I felt very comfortable with, but it's definitely broken a lot of barriers for me in my business this year. Follow your dreams. It's your life, no one else's. Stop copying other people and be authentic. Yeah, this is a big one. In my 30s, I started to realize that my dream was to serve and help other people through coaching and healing and spirituality and mindfulness. And in the beginning, I was kind of like, I didn't know how to do it, and so I was copying other people. And I've started to learn to be more authentic and to fall into who I am and show up as who I am. So for a very long time, I didn't want to show my spiritual side because I felt like people would think I'm like weird or quirky or strange. But the spiritual side of me, the one that has these gifts, is the one that is the one that's me. Like, that's who I am. I am a spiritual teacher and healer. Like, that's what makes me excited. That's what lights me up. And so I've been showing up as that person more and more this year, talking my truth and channeling the truth of spirit, of the universe, to bring to all of you. Let go of judgments of yourself. You are complete, worthy, and perfect in your way. Get out of victim mode. So I was in victim mode for most of my 20s and 30s, and now I realize that it was all because of the judgments I carried of myself, or judgments that other people had of me that I was carrying within my own energy. And I've worked really hard to be in a place of where I feel complete, worthy, and enough. And, you know, I still go back, like there are still parts of that core wound that still come up, and I have to, you know, ground myself and go back and really feel into myself. But it's really important to know that you're not a victim of anything. Like, you actually are a creator, and you're creating the reality that you're in right now. And that means that whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, that's all energy that's being drawn into what you're creating. And so if you want to create something that's not what you're living in right now, get out of that victim mode, get out of that mindset of like things are happening to you and you have no control, because that's not the truth. You have control every moment of every day. Okay. The last two. Don't be afraid to make risks. Try something new. Go on an adventure. And then the last one is life is now in this present moment. Everything else is non-existent. So I feel for a really long time I played it safe. And I didn't really take many risks. And I didn't try anything new. In my 30s, we actually moved out of state. We moved to Florida. And I think that was like the best experience of my life, because I met great people there, but I found my soul. Like, it's hard to say, like my soul just felt so alive there because I was connecting to nature all the time. I was doing the things that I loved. Like, so I went through getting laid off from my job, and I was working at this consulting firm for a really long time. The way it happened was like just very shocking to me, and it was very painful, but I feel like it had to have happened while I was in Florida. And like something about being there and the energy there just kind of lifted me up and changed that whole scenario into something more positive. And like I just transformed into another person. I feel like if I had never tried that, like I was really afraid to go when we were moving, I would have never been able to go further within my spiritual transformation. And so when we go on adventures, when we try new things, it's like, it's a journey, right? Like I was saying this before, like life is a journey. That it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's about like the moments in that journey, which goes to the next one. Like, life is now in this present moment. And I just posted this in my stories from Eckhart Tolle. Like, we're constantly living in the next moment, or what's going to happen, that we don't live in this moment. Life is happening now, in this moment. And everything else is non-existent. Like, you know, the anticipation of something happening or something coming, or, you know, feeling bad about something that might have happened earlier today or before. Like, that's where we live for a majority of our day. And like, all of that is like energy wasted pretty much. If we were to focus our energy on like being here and now in this present moment and just being grateful for what we have, a lot of things would start to shift within our reality and within our life. And so mindfulness is a practice that helps us with that. And like, it has helped me to realize that when I spiral out, that I need to bring myself back. I need to focus on my breath. I need to be here now in this present moment. And right now, everything is absolutely great. And might not, whatever happens in the future will happen. Whatever happened in the past already occurred. It doesn't matter. Right now, everything is great. And that's what matters. So those are my lessons. Those are the 15 lessons I have that I've learned in my 20s and my 30s that I want to share with you. I want to hear from you. I want to hear if these made sense to you, if these were valuable, if you resonated with any of them. what questions you have, just drop a comment or DM me. I love hearing from you guys, and I will talk to all of you later. Love you so much.